Hey everyone, my name is Kirk.
I'm his brother Jacob.
And 3 years ago, we started our junk removal business with just a simple pickup truck. And in the last 3 years, we grew our business from $0 all the way to 7 figures in revenue.
In this video, we're gonna be showing you how we went from 0 to 120K in our first year with just a pickup truck.
And if we could go back 3 years to the start with what we know now, we would be so much further ahead because it took us a lot of trial and error to figure out what actually works.
In today's video, we're gonna show you what actually worked for us, so take notes.
And anyways, let's get right into this. All right guys, so Jacob went home to work on the schedule for the day to keep the guys busy tomorrow. But now with you, I'm gonna go over all the basics that any beginner is gonna need to know to start their junk removal business now. For example, what kind of truck do you need? How are you gonna price in junk removal? Where are you gonna dump once that truck is full? How are you gonna find employees to help you for the business? How are you gonna find mentors that can help guide you through the startup? And then some of the more boring things like what kind of software do you need and more of the boring legal stuff to start a legit business. And then lastly, which is one of the most important, is how are you gonna market your service to get jobs to actually grow your business? To be honest with you guys, in our first year, we didn't spend any money on marketing and we didn't even have any employees either. And because of that, we were able to run with very high profit margins, which allowed us to scale really quickly in our second and third years. Okay, so let's start off with your truck. What kind of truck are you gonna need to start a junk removal business? To be honest, to make 100K, you really don't need anything special. We were able to do it with just our pickup truck, U-Haul rentals, and some dumpster rentals for those bigger jobs too. Another tip is if you don't even have a truck, you could literally tow a little trailer on a car as well. I had a friend that did that with his business. And when we started, we didn't even have any place to put a trailer. I know if we did, it would have set us a lot further ahead. But if you do have a place for a trailer, it's definitely a great starting option for junk removal. All right, so now we're gonna get into junk removal pricing. Junk removal pricing can be done in many ways, but I'm gonna be sharing with you how we do the pricing for our business, but also how most people in the industry price their trucks for junk removal. I'm also gonna be doing an entire separate video on pricing for junk removal, so make sure to subscribe for that. All right, so pricing really depends on what state you live in. Every state has different laws for the disposal process, and that really affects the dump fees. For example, here in Mass, our dump fees are a lot of the times over $200 a ton, but there's other states where it can be typically around $30 a ton to dispose of junk. And because of that, every state's gonna have different expenses, which is gonna affect the pricing. Now there's two main ways for pricing. You can typically charge by the truckload, which is how most people charge for their junk removal jobs. But what we do actually is we charge by the job. We give the customer the price before we get there. We have customers send us a picture and then we basically look at that picture and we give them a price. When pricing, you want to factor in the total cubic volume of your truck, plus a number of other factors like what kind of material are you removing? Is it heavy stuff? Because that's how they charge for the disposal at the dump, is based on the weight. Where's the location of that stuff? Is it easy to access or is it all the way tucked in someone's attic? You also want to factor in travel distance, like how far is this away from your home base? And a number of other miscellaneous fees, like the dumps will charge you additional for electronics, tires, propane tanks, and all sorts of other weird items. Those are additional expenses that you want to add on for the customer. And you can determine those based on the local rate in your area, and then obviously adding more to that so you can profit for your business. And lastly is going to be labor cost. You want to factor in how long that job's going to take you. How many hours are you going to have to charge them for your labor and your time and your guys' time that are helping you? Like I mentioned, you want to base everything off of the cubic yards that it's going to take up in your truck. I'd say a good industry standard for the price per cubic yard is around $50 to $60. But one thing you can do to figure out your local area's cubic yard average is going to be calling up some of your local competitors and then just seeing what they charge for a full truckload, figuring out what their truck size is, and then just quickly doing the math. Okay, so now we're going to talk about employees. You really don't need employees to hit 100K. In fact, I think it's actually better not to have employees because that's a whole nother expense you're gonna have to worry about. What I did was I partnered up with my brother and together we were able to take on everything. What I recommend is first working in the business so you can learn every in and out of the business. Then hire people once you fully understand what you're hiring them for. At this point, you can then afford to hire them and you can lead them with confidence. Overall, your goal in the first year should be maximizing profit and money in the bank as you're learning the business, because hiring employees can really take a lot out of your account. When it comes to dumping, every state is gonna have different disposal laws. For example, some states have landfills where you can pretty much just dump everything. But other states like Mass, you're gonna have to sort every little thing. So you wanna make sure you research dumps in your area and what you can and can't dispose of and where. No matter where you're at, it's always good to separate the metal because that can cover some of your dump fees. When we started off, to be honest, there were some days where we wouldn't even pay for dump fees because we would literally get so many jobs that were all metal. That would actually cover all our dump fees for the day. And there's a lot of different places you can dump. You can basically go to transfer stations, landfills, recycling centers, or scrap yards, which is where you go for the metal. And how a transfer station works is they basically want you to sort out all the different types of materials, and it's much better for the environment to dispose of stuff at a transfer station. And a lot of the times too, it can save you money on dump fees. And when it comes to recycling metal, some transfer stations will pay you for the metal, but your best option is probably going to be going to a scrap yard because those places are literally made to pay you for that metal that you bring to them. And this is another really important one. It's definitely one of the things that allowed us to scale so quickly, and that's mentors. Before we even started doing junk removal on our own, we basically used to work with these guys that I met at the dump. They basically showed us the ropes and showed us everything that we needed to know how to actually do it. We've also learned a lot from our parents who've been building their tree service for the last 30 years. They basically started their business right out of college, and for the last 30 years, they built their business from the ground up. We learned a lot of how to structure a home service business from them. And although they never gave us any money, the best thing that they did give us was the knowledge and the path that they had so we could learn from their mistakes. Now let's get into some of the more analytical and boring stuff, but it's also super important to do things the right way. And that's more of like the software and the legal stuff that you're gonna need to know. I'm not gonna lie, we still use pretty minimal software to this day. We basically built our entire business on Apple Notes, and we still schedule jobs to this day using Apple Notes. A lot of people use a CRM for that, but it doesn't take anything crazy to actually go out and start doing the business. For customer data, accounting, and finances, we use QuickBooks, which is a really good all-in-one, and you can also have a bookkeeper or an accountant manage that with you if that's not your expertise, but QuickBooks is a really good accounting software. And that's also really important for taxes. Okay, and like I mentioned before, a lot of people use a CRM. CRM is basically customer relationship management to manage their customers' information, create their daily schedules, and send out invoices and billing for their customers. And when it comes to setting up your website, these days there's so many free options out there, but the way we built our website was completely from scratch using WordPress, but you can also use other sites like Squarespace or Wix. We were on a tight budget and I didn't want to go and hire someone to build a website, so I locked in, watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and learned how to build a website from scratch using WordPress. If you're not good with technology, I don't recommend it, but if you're prepared for the grind, I think it's possible. And for the legal stuff too, it depends on what state you live in if you're gonna need a license to remove junk. I'm pretty sure most states don't require it, but definitely research that based on the state you live in. In terms of taxes and like legally protecting yourself, you're gonna wanna probably set up an LLC. You can also do other things like an S Corp, C Corp. There's different ways to legally structure your company, but most people when they're just starting will set up an LLC. Now it's time for the exciting part, and let's get into marketing. The way that we scaled our business in our first year to get to 120K was actually completely organically. We never paid for any marketing, and I really don't recommend paying for marketing when you're just starting out because you really want to focus on getting those profits and that money in the bank, which is going to be crucial for scaling. All right, so business cards are super important when just starting, especially when you want to really get most of your jobs from word of mouth. In our first year, I would say a majority of our jobs came from word of mouth, and every single customer you go to, you want to give them cards and ask them to tell their friends. And you also want to follow up with those customers a day after and be persistent, because it's that persistency is what will really help you grow with word of mouth in the beginning. Some other places that you can do this through social media are Facebook. You can join some local Facebook groups and post your business in there. Another thing you can do as well is go on Facebook Marketplace, and you can also go on Craigslist, make some posts on there. And another really good one is Nextdoor. That's free. It's your local neighborhood app. You can post on Nextdoor, and a lot of the local community likes to support small businesses on there. We're also gonna be posting some more educational content to go more in depth on the topics that we talked about in this video. And if you're serious about starting or scaling your junk removal business right now, you can check out our community, Junk University, where we go in depth to give away all of our secrets of how we did this. The link is in the description for that, and subscribe for more videos like this. Let's get this done!